Hi, Ellen. How you going? So good to see you.
And thank you. Good to see you also.
So, Ellen, you're an internationally renowned psychic medium, a twin flame and ascension guide, and shamanic healer, shadow healer, and clairvoyant. But I feel like you're so much more. I can really feel that eternal soul of yours.
Thank you.
You're such a luminous being. What was your childhood like? So we'll give people an indication of what it's like to be a psychic or how you actually develop.
Oh, well, my childhood was not at all like a psychic, I guess, if you want to say that, but it was I had a very, very difficult childhood, probably quite extreme compared to a lot, but a lot of abuse, a lot of child abuse, satanic ritual abuse and things like that. And I drowned when I was 4, and I went through a lot of things in my journey as a young person, but I was also all very, very guided by spirit guides, even as a 4-year-old.
Do you think that trauma leads you to build up that resilience that you're required to be a psychic?
I believe that most healers who are truly, truly clairvoyant, who are enlightened, have gone through extreme trauma. I wouldn't say all, but I believe that most do. And I do believe that it develops character, and that's part of what it does, is it helps to cause you to do digging inside of yourself and deep diving to get answers.
Yeah, so you basically rely on yourself. You feel like you've only got yourself and you need to go inside, like almost introverted, to find your answers and become powerful.
Yeah, although, yeah, you do. You got to go inside. Although like I said, I kind of also sought outside and sought higher guidance. I sought things that were beyond this world, because this world wasn't doing it for me. And even inside of myself, sometimes it wasn't, I wasn't always getting the answers. And so I had to kind of decode all the information over time. But I think too that every soul goes through a lot of lifetimes to develop itself to get to where it's actually ready for certain roles. So not everybody's come to this planet to suffer like I did. And not everybody's come to this planet to be a psychic. And quite frankly, I didn't even want to come out as a psychic. It was
You got work to do, I know.
it was a lot like being gay and coming out of the closet. It was quite difficult for me to do that, even though I was very good at what I knew. It was a lot to come out in front of the whole world and say, hey, guess what? I talk to spirits and I do all these strange things in the astral realms. And
Do you think everyone has the innate ability to do that? But, people like yourself that are so tuned in, have exceptional qualities, exceptional skills that you can give to the rest of the world to enable us to, increase our consciousness, I call it.
Absolutely, everybody has the ability to, because it really is just your soul's design. And that sounds easy and cute, right? But getting into the root of that really takes a lot of work. And so, yeah, everybody has the ability to, but very few are very good at just tapping in. And again, I think that's where it goes back to how many lifetimes a soul has, and what stage of evolution they're in over multiple lives of journeying. So I think it's a lot deeper than we give ourselves even credit for.
You can see that you've come in here with multiple reincarnations, thousands of lifetimes. You're an old soul. We all know that. But what markers did you know along the way that you were sort of unique? Though we all have that talent, latent talent, what sort of markers or occurrences that occurred to you that thought, yeah, I've got something that, a special skill here to develop and to honor this planet with?
Well, it's tricky, because a lot of times I feel dumb as a rock, and like if you ask me how to do simple human things, sometimes it's like I can't get myself there. But I knew, even as I didn't really know that I was psychic until I was about 14. And at 14 years old, I really knew that I was. Somebody could call at my friend's house and I would tell her who it was that was calling, or, I would see somebody's karma and I would say, you're going to get this and this. That hand you used to hurt people with is going to get hurt. And then 2 weeks later, his hand got cut and he could never use it again. And so, I was very, very psychic as a teenager, and I knew it. But then I turned it off because I didn't feel embraced in my world, as far as being able to come out and say that that's what I was. I mean, it's those dogmatic beliefs about being a psychic. And again, just like you said, I'm a lot more than just a psychic. I'm an awakened, illuminated soul. And I've died and come out of body. And I'm not just talking near death experiences. I'm talking having soul death and then being reborn again, like the Christ story. And so, there's a lot there, but I turned it off. And then my turning it off led to further evolution. And I guess I say I turned it off, but it never really turns off. And my guides weren't about to have that from me. So they ensured that I was, getting the messages loud and clear, and that I would stop trying to run away from what I was. And so, in my 30s, after I had a full-blown Kundalini activation and had my light body activated and had my, my 12 strand DNA activated and all these other really high level evolutionary experiences, I decided to embrace myself. It was impossible at that point not to. So.
Yeah, just for the audience listening, I'm sure there's many people there who have felt something about themselves, but unfortunately our world focuses on the left brain. Yeah, and all other matters like the right brain or ethereal thinking is put aside, is basically like there's something wrong with you. So I think a lot of people repress that side of themselves, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, and like I said, it takes a lot to, even in this day of enlightenment, there are a lot of people talking about ascension and new earth and all these things, light workers and star seeds, and they're kind of catching on now, and it's great. But again, there's so many varying levels of evolution too, and so to really walk the talk or to really step into that, it takes a lot. You really have to let go of your whole mortal reality. And that's, I had to let go of my career as a realtor and a journalist. I did both over my journey, and I had to let go of those things. And that was probably one of the hardest things to do, was to let go of that identity of the person that could go out there and make, great money in real estate, just to step into this role, doing sessions.
Is that how you truly find yourself though? Is that how you truly find yourself? You navigated on this path that you really didn't want to be on to ultimately put you on the right path for your soul.
Well, I think there's lots of ways that you can find yourself. I don't know, I can only speak for my own journey, but I can tell you that even in my career as a realtor, even though I could make way better money than what I'm doing now, my soul wasn't fulfilled. And even as a young person, when I was 4 and 7 years old, I always knew that I was meant to write books, and I always knew that I was meant to be in front of people talking about things and teaching. But I had to go through a lot to get here now. So it's, and some of what I went through was falling off of that path. So falling out of alignment with myself and going into the real estate, because real estate was a lucrative job that you can do in the human world, but it had nothing to do with what my soul was. My soul's smarter than me, and my soul was not going to let me fool myself this time around. We did it 55 other thousand lifetimes. We didn't get it right this time. So
was there ever a religious background within the family that you were exposed to?
I was exposed to Mormonism, a Christian-based reality. But again, I drowned when I was 4. And so when I went to the other side and I went to heaven during that time, I was shown a lot of things, and I was shown that religion wasn't real. So and when I say this for the audience or anybody watching it, what I mean by that is that there are truths within the religious constructs, but they're not exactly what the spirit world is about. And the spirit world is way more expansive. And some of the religious teachings or dogmatic teachings are actually out of alignment with the true spirit world. And so I saw that, and I understood it as a 4-year-old. And then I came back and I saw and understood that polygamy was a big no-no in the spirit world. And I came back and tried to tell my dad about it, and he wasn't hearing anything about it. And I saw that reincarnation was real and everything else too, but he didn't believe in it. So it made it very hard for me to embrace my truth, but it also made it very hard for me to embrace his truth because I was caught in the crosshairs. So yeah.
So, yeah, reincarnation is very, there's so much to it, isn't it? It's very interesting. So obviously, have you experienced many lifetimes? Do you have recollections? How does it work for you?
I do have a lot of recollections about past timelines. I've basically seen all of them, if you will. So when I was in my 30s, I died again, and this time I went straight to source, and I was shown the Pleiadians, and I was shown all the galactic beings, and I was shown the story of humanity from beginning to end. So they made like a movie for me and showed me all of the different timelines: Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt, and so on and so forth. And so I've seen that and seen my role in some of them. And I've also had soul memory of certain lifetimes where I remembered dying. When I drowned at age 4, I saw a past life where I drowned as an older woman. So I saw that I had died before in a drowning. And I've seen that I was a Chinese man, and I've seen, so I've seen all these different, I've seen that I was a Black woman. And so I've had all these different realities in my past, but I don't remember every single one fully consciously. I just saw the movie of them and have certain ones that I remember.
Yeah. So like I said, some of us experience extrasensory metaphysical skills and able to perceive different realms. I mean, you're just absolutely one of a kind. I've followed you for a while, and it's like the synchronistic part of you. Like every day, it's like you're tapping into my brain and know what I'm feeling and relay it to the world. It's absolutely amazing. Is there an individual consciousness as well as a collective consciousness?
Yes and no, in a certain way, because every individual consciousness is part of the collective.
Yeah.
So as you tap into the collective, you're tapping into everybody, if you will. But there are ways that you can retrieve or receive unique thought for yourself, and you really, everybody should be able to receive their own thought forms and then present those to the world, as opposed to mimicking, copycatting everybody. Right now we have a lot of copycatting, or what we call the mockingbird effect, right? And we even have that in the spiritual community, but everybody's yippity-yappity, and very few are bringing forth unique information or true, pure information that's unique. And you should try to do that, because that's when you're tapping into something evolutionary. Yeah. That's the evolution of God that we're bringing forth. But again, even what you're tapping into or what they're tapping into is still part of that massive collective that's in the non-physical as well.
Yeah. So if we're all tapping into the matrix, so are there similar ideas that we can each tap into that are very similar as well? I've got the belief that the ideas are already there in the matrix, and if you can tap into them and then other people tap into them at the same time, that's how we get similar codings. You know what I mean? Like,
well, there's truth in that. There is truth in that, and that happens sometimes too, where I'll get a thought to do something and somebody else does it, beats me to the punchline before I do. Yeah. And that's fine too, because some of that is your own alignment. If you're really in alignment, you're going to act as you receive, instead of delaying energy blocks and things like that. But I will say this, and the spirit is here telling me that yes, you're receiving, because everybody receives from the source. So when I get a unique thought and I bring it forth, it's me that's been connected to source to do that. But all thoughts come from source. But how we present is totally unique to us, because we're unique souls and we are therefore unique expressions.
So should everyone act on that inspiration that they actually receive? Should they be acting on, whether it's to create something or do something? Should they be acting on something that they,
well, if they're inspired to,
yeah
if they're inspired to do it, they should. They don't oftentimes, because they have lots of energy blocks in all the different chakras. And also be careful what you're going to act on,
I was
because a
going to
lot of
say,
people
yeah.
think they're getting intuition and they're actually getting interference. And
Yeah.
if you're getting interference, and I'll give you an example of that, is Lori Vallow. Is that who that is? I think I wrote about it the other day. It was that I was talking about watching out how, when you're receiving information, because some of these people are thinking that they're talking to God. And there's actually what's called voice of God technology, which is a military interference. It's a negative militant interference where it's making people think they're talking to God, and then they're doing bad things. And she murdered her children.
Oh.
And so, you want to make sure it's the divine that you're talking to before you act, for sure.
How does the average person do that then? How does the average person that doesn't have your type of skills or developed like you know the difference?
Well, that's a good question. And that's, I guess between each soul and the divine. But, one, you're going to feel good. You're going to feel good. Does it feel good? Well, but the ego mind, or the spirit of Satan, if you will, can also make you think that you're feeling good when you're doing things that aren't really in alignment with truth.
Right. Yeah.
So if you think you're talking to God and you're being told to murder somebody, go back to those 10 commandments. Is that really in alignment with the 10 commandments? The 10 commandments are steadfast and true, right? They're steadfast and true. And so, but again, it's really, the journey isn't so much I guess talking to God is a big part of it, is to make that connection, but it's also to learn which part of you is not light. Yeah. Facing your shadow, facing the devil within you, if you will, and learning to understand that. And a lot of people, especially in the spiritual communities, are trying so hard to reach for the light that they're ignoring the dark even within them, and that's how they get tripped up. They don't want to face their own darkness. And until you do that, you'll never see the true light anyway. You're seeing false light.
So you do work with shadow work? You do work
I
with
do shadow healing
work?
with,
yeah.
And it's a challenging work, because one, you probably see me sometimes posting things that aren't necessarily light and love, right? They're deep rooted shadow aspects, because I'm being used to heal shadow aspects for the collective. So I present things sometimes to people that, those that are ready to see are going to start to understand, maybe there's more to this than that. Maybe there's something else I need to be looking at. But also, when you're doing shadow healing with yourself or with anybody else, a lot of times that can be tricky, depending on if that person has demonic possession or something like that, because when they do, and you try to present the shadow to them, the demonic entity rebels and hates it, and it's a bad thing. But the soul inside is asking for help. So it's a really tricky thing. But yes, I do shadow healing for people, and for
become dangerous to you as well, knowing that you've got people who could be possibly possessed or have demon entities attached to them? Does this become dangerous for you?
It does. And it does require me to do a lot of my own energy healing daily. I have to do a lot of energy healing on myself daily for protection, and for, taking breaks from having sessions like that. So I don't book a lot of shadow healing sessions. I do it only when I have space, and I make the space for it, and I make sure I'm protected. And again, I am at a high level of evolution because I've been groomed by the spirit world to be here. So I do have a lot of protection from source and from the Light Alliance. So I'm not too worried about it, but I have had some times where I will work with somebody and I'm immediately sick afterwards. I feel sick. They make me feel sick. I get nauseous and things like that. I've faced demons that later come and try to attach to me, and I have to combat that. So it is dangerous, and it isn't something that I do all the time. I do it for specific people as guided, and if it's something that is too much for me, I won't. So I've had some where I just won't work with them because they're not even ready yet. They're just not ready yet. And they're going to fight with everything I say. And, it's not going to be healthy for me. So I have to first protect my soul. in order to be able to do this work for the collective. But, you know, in most cases, it's fine. I know how to work with them. It's just that, you know, the soul itself has to really be ready for it.
Yeah, particularly these days with what's going on. But there's that saying, you know, you're the five, your personality is the total of the five people that you hang out with. That so you better be careful who you actually do hang out with in this realm. Let's go back to obviously what everyone's talking about at the moment, Ellen, the veil and the Great Awakening. Can you take us back to the purpose of humanity being here? Or the 12, did it start with 12 families? I'm not a big believer of the Darwin theory. I believe.
Oh,
that,
yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you shouldn't be. That theory is really corrupt, actually. There was 12 tribes, if that's what you're talking about, in the purpose for humanity. Well, that's kind of a subjective question in a lot of ways, because originally we were seeded onto the earth in the days of Lemuria, and even prior, there were lands even prior to Lemuria. And when we were seeded, it was a utopian planet. We're the children of God, so we were given this planet to learn to come and create and love one another. And we were already paired with our divine mates, and everything was beautiful and utopian. And what happened was dark forces, or ET forces, came to earth, the fallen angels, and they created sorcery and manipulation and started to breed with the human women, and it was bad deal. So it caused great tribulations, and that has been ongoing ever since. And that's really what the Matrix is also, is the Matrix is this huge web that they created to hold down the Anunnakis, that's also holding down the souls of the children of God. So you know, in order for us to break free from that, we have to really realign with our soul. And that is an easy thing to say, and a very, 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 very big work to do, because what does that mean? And this is where, as a teacher, or as any of us that are teaching truth or speaking truth, we get in trouble, because the moment you say something true and somebody else isn't ready to receive it, then you're the bad guy and they crucify you and spit in your face and all these other things. So it's a very, very, and there's so many people in all these different varying levels of evolution that they might like 9 things you say and not the 10th one, because they haven't learned that one lesson yet. So now you're the bad guy again. It's a very tricky thing. So the key to getting through ascension is to keep an open heart and an open mind, and to stay in that love, and to hold those holy codes of love to be able to navigate your way through, because otherwise you're going to get knocked around left and right and you get sucked under. And that's one of the draconians tricks that they like to do, is they're like crocodile beings or reptile beings. Well, what does a crocodile do to its prey?
Gosh, yeah.
It takes them underwater and it spins them in circles. So you ever felt that way in your life, or you're in your life going through round and round? I swear I've been here before. What's the lesson? Why haven't I learned it yet? Well, it's because they're screwing with you, and they got you underwater and they're spinning you in circles and you can't see yet. So that's kind of a good indication that somebody's toying with your nose hairs there, if you're feeling that way. But yeah, it's a lot that we're going through. And again, raise your vibration and stay in love and all those things. Those are great. But if you're not doing the heavy duty lifting of the shadow work, then you're still not there.
Yeah, so we talk about nefarious beings, and come on, I just want to show you someone who's very beautiful. Come here. You'll love Ellen. Come here. Come and have a look.
Oh, adorable.
Ellen. Hey,
very adorable.
Hello to Ellen. I thought you'd love her. You came over because you could feel a great spirit. Yeah,
that's adorable.
She is adorable. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been exposed to movies. I mean, the movies seem to be, telling of a future that we have. We've looked at Star Trek, we've looked at Star Wars, we've looked at many movies that show different beings that we have on you know, or exposed from different planets. So there's some nefarious and there's some what we call benevolent that are trying to help humanity raise their consciousness, obviously. Can you talk us through some of them? Obviously, you're a lot more worded up on those beings than I am.
Well, I am one of those beings. And so you're talking about the Pleiadians and the Lyrans and Arcturians and Venusians and Orions and all of the different star seeds and beings like that.
Close to our star system, yes, yeah. So obviously, I mean, we're in one galaxy, but there's even science has proven there's millions of galaxies now. So I mean, obviously, we can't be alone. You know, who else is in those planets and those star systems?
Right. Imagine all the fish in the sea. How many are there? We don't even know. We're barely tapping into it. We discover thousands of new ones every year. And so imagine what's in the infinite cosmos. And I do starseed readings too. So what I do is I go into the Akash and I see and meet and work with all of these different beings from the Light Alliance, but they come from all over the galaxies. And every time I do a reading, I usually find new beings. I've never seen some of them. They come through, you know, randomly, and I don't know what they are, and I'm just trying to describe what they look like. And then sometimes I'll Google it or try to see if I could say, okay, ET with a flat head, and then I find a picture of them. I'm like, okay, so there's something out there, you know. But there's infinite, and I am even in my own evolution. I think that we as a species are just starting to be able to tap into that. For those of us that are ascending to these. To once you get into the 12th dimension, you're kind of in God consciousness, and you can then access all that God knows.
Okay, so the Akashic record is quite interesting, isn't it? And this is something that you can tap into an individual's Akashic record with all occurrences from their life. Can you tell us a bit more about the Akashic records?
Well, the Akashic records are, again, they're kind of like accessing the God mind. And so you have to really get your own vibration really, really, really high to be granted access to it, because it's sacred information, right? So that's one of the reasons why not everybody is able to access them, is that they first have to go through their own evolution to be ready. And so it's like accessing the God mind. It's an etheric library of every thought and deed that has ever happened, past, present, and future, because time isn't really real. So I can go in there and I can see future events, and I can go in there and see past events. I can go in there and see, if I do a starseed reading on somebody, I can see, okay, well, you were Pleiadian, but you were also Lyran, and then prior to that you lived in Venus, and then I can tell them their whole star story. So there's so much there, both past, present, and future, that sky's the limit. There is no limit. It's infinite. And it's also, since time isn't real, it's the whole story of everything.
So how do you actually delve into someone's Akashic record?
Oh, well, how I do it is I was granted access to it. So I'm able to basically go into a trance state. And when I'm in a trance state, I'm able to get into the etheric realms. And when I'm in the etheric realms, I'm able to go into the library and I can receive their book of life. And in their book of life, it tells me everything I need to see. Sometimes they won't show me everything all at once, but they'll show me what they want us to look at that time. So I'll be able to see, you know, timelines that they lived in planetary lives or other planetary systems. I'm able to see other past lives. And a lot of times I'll start to be able to retrieve this information with a soul that's already had certain of those memories. So they're able to confirm that what I'm picking up on is actually things that they've seen in dreams, or they knew, or they had already discovered this one part. But I'm able to get a whole lot of that. Even with the starseed readings, you know, a lot of people don't realize that most starseeds are more than one type or one breed. They've oftentimes lived in multiple planetary lives. So it's a vast thing. You're an eternal soul. So imagine how much information is in the Akash really about you.
And how much, yeah, and how powerful are we really as beings? I mean, we go back to our 12-strand DNA, but is it being activated at the moment?
Well, it is for some of us, but again, the activation can't happen without doing the soul work and the soul evolution. So you can't force that. You have to be where you are and trust your journey and do the soul work. And yes, it's being activated now. And yes, we are being downloaded with lots of light codes. Even our sun's codes are starting to change, and they're coming in very silvered, very light. So there's so much going on galactically and collectively to help us to awaken, which is part of the Great Awakening, is that we are being activated. Now, your job is to do your soul work in there, but that's your part. And the guides and the galactics and the source do the rest for us. So, you know, we kind of meet in the middle there, but we are absolutely activating our strands of DNA that have been hijacked. And you know, it's again, it's a very tragic story, because we were originally these godlike beings when we came here. We speak with telepathy. I don't need voices to talk, especially with my twin flame. He doesn't have a voice much to talk with, so I telepathically communicate with him all day long. We have better conversation that way than we do in the physical world. So, you know, but this was our true nature, was to be able to just telepathically communicate. We don't need telephones or televisions or any of these other things. It's our true nature is so far beyond these little five senses that they taught us to think were what we were. We are way more than that.
I think that's why some of us get on so well with animals. We're able to use that telepathy, or the picture, what I call the picture system. We give them pictures, and we retrieve pictures back from them. And I think that's what you're talking about, you know. So a lot of people say that animals aren't evolved beings, but I see them uniquely being evolved with great skills.
They're actually angels that have chosen to incarnate onto the planet to assist humanity. So they're actually very benevolent beings that have come here to serve humans.
Oh, most definitely. We talked about different realms. Sorry. So we've got, well, let's talk about the 3D. I mean, the different dimensions. So Earth presently is ascending from 3D. Is that something, a physical place, or is it something within our realms energetically, our frequency that just changes, rather than, you know, going to another place?
Well, it's both, isn't it? Because are you a human, or are you a soul, or are you both?
Well, we're having the human experience, aren't we?
Well, you're a soul physically manifest vessel, right? And so basically, in short, the answer is both. There's an etheric version and there's a physical version of New Earth. And as far as is Earth ascending to 3D, only part of it is. Part of it's old and dying away and becoming in a darker world, and part of it's going into a new Earth. And a lot of people don't like to talk about that. They say, oh, we're all one, we're all going together. No, we're not. No, we're not. You're not all going to the same place, because certain souls are not ready to learn the 5D frequency, or to learn unconditional love, or to learn to live in alignment with the soul. Some are just simply not there, and they get to have another cycle. So, and I've been shown this by the source. So, you know, I have to stick with what I was shown. If that changes later, great. I will hope it will change for everybody, but that's not what I was shown. I was shown that this is a particular timeline with this ascension window that's here right now, which is a portal in the galaxies that certain souls are going to be able to pass through if they are ready to align with that higher vibration. Not all of them are doing that now. Just take a look at what's been happening in the last 4 or 5 years. Half of them are going one way and half of them are going the other way. And so what I was shown is that the new Earth and the souls that are ascending there are going to ascend onto that planetary system, onto that new planet, onto new Earth. Wow. And the other ones are going to fall into an older world, and there's going to be a cataclysmic event. And I think a lot of prophets and disciples that have had vision like I have seen the exact same thing. And so when you start to see a lot of these people are saying this, it's because they've been given vision. And so those ones that are going the other way, they have another several thousand year cycle that they get to live in a world that's even lower than where we're at now.
Even lower.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's going to get harder
very
for them because
scary.
that old world is dying. So as that one's dying, the new one's being born. Everything cosmic is about birth and death, right? Death and rebirth. And so as one starts to die away, the other one's being born. Well, you're talking about a whole planet. So you have some thousands of years of evolution there to go through. And that's why it's going to be another cycle for them, and it's going to get harder for them. But that is also meant to cause them to awaken. So, and how that's going to unfold, I don't think any of us truly know. I can only express what I was shown. And as far as I understand that cataclysmic event is going to cause the birth of us transitioning into new earth, and maybe it will happen differently. I don't know. People can throw eggs at me or whatever they want to do, but I can just speak from what I was shown and what I understand. So
many people speak about the luminous being, that we turn into a luminous being, which is basically light or spirit. Now, you talk about frequency quite often. So when we raise our vibration, is that the reason why some people can see different dimensions as you become a higher being? You expressed, light. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The higher the vibration, the more dimensions you're able to access, and the more information you're able to receive, and the more that you're going to be shown. So, but it's all about that vibration, and that's not just, doesn't mean walk around and talk about light and love. That's where people get tripped up by this. They think that means, okay, just stay in love. And that's not necessarily true at all. Sometimes raising your vibration means calling yourself out on your bullshit, or overcoming your addictions, or healing old cycles of trauma that you have to dig inside of your scabs for. You don't get there easily. And so it's not just a light and love thing, it's a be true to yourself thing. To thine own self be true.
So I can only imagine the amount of beings that you must see on a daily basis that the majority of people can't see. Because as you raise your vibration, I know that you have access to different realms. And that's why probably people can see some ETs or some benevolent beings. They can actually see them like their apparition in front of them, whereas some people can't. And I've always believed that's because of different frequency. The higher your frequency, the more you're able to tap into those different ethereal realms. So how important is it, how important are our thoughts individually or collectively, therefore? Because obviously they do affect our frequency.
Well, obviously thoughts are things. And so, they're very important, because if you're thinking thoughts that are not in alignment with your soul's truth, then you're holding yourself in a lower frequency. You're imprisoning yourself, and therefore your soul. So they're very, very important. And I forgot what else you were asking me there.
Well, I can also ask is, how do we actually raise our vibrational frequency? I think a lot of people want to know about that. If there's sorry, look what's come. I see that as an angel.
Nice. Yeah. That's beautiful.
A little angel there. How does one actually raise their frequency as well? I mean, if we're to get away from this old earth as well, and cut our ties, obviously we need to raise our vibration to lift our consciousness individually and collectively.
Well, everybody that's online that has some experience with this is probably saying, well, sit in nature, because nature's good, right? Listen to good healing frequencies and good music, meditate, pray. All of those things are true. But again, as above, so below. So how deep down inside of your soul can you dig? Because the deeper you dig, the higher you fly. And it goes back to shadow healing. So if you're not really digging deep, you're not going to fly high. You don't get one and not the other. They go hand in hand.
It makes sense too, because if we look after our own backyard, then collectively we add to the beauty or the purity of Mother Earth, because we're cleaning up our own backyard, and then we're presenting ourselves to the collective as something more beautiful.
Right. It's funny that you say that, because I posted a post today that was kind of a joke, you know, but it's true.
Okay.
True, bro. But did you see that one with Homer Simpson and his wife, and he comes out looking all great, and he's got all of his flab tucked behind him in rubber bands holding his flab back, and in front he looks great and the light shining and it says light worker, right, presenting himself all great and light, and then in the back is all this unhealed trauma and repressed emotion and lying to yourself, and et cetera, et cetera. It's not just light workers, it's humans in general that we tend to kind of try to put our good face out in front of everybody, but in the back end, what's going on in the subconscious, what's going on in the underbelly of who you really are, and let's don't BS ourselves anymore. Let's just go in there and look at it. You know, I get people in sessions all the time that come in, and I start to ask them about their family, and they're so afraid of telling the truth about how they really feel about mom and dad, because they want to be the good light worker and they want to be loving, and they've already worked through, well, I love them and I understand. Yeah. But how did you really feel? Did they treat you bad? Did you feel bad when you were little? What was it like? Did they yell at you? We're not beating them up. We're just looking at it so that we can face it head on. And when you face it head on, then you can move through it.
Yeah, definitely. So, what about with the exposure of these birds that I'm seeing, what about the angels, the difference between seraphim and archangels at the moment? There's a lot of talk about that as well in the community.
Well, I mean, I guess that can be somewhat a matter of perspective in a certain degree, because angels are beings of light that exist in higher dimensions, and why we call them seraphim versus, archangels is a little bit, I guess, doesn't matter, because an angel is an angel to some degree. Although I will say that the oraphim that are even above the seraphim are even more evolved souls. So really it's a dimensional frequency that you're tapping into to articulate what it is that you're seeing and feeling. So you can have humans, and humans are on this third density, and they vibrate at a certain level, and they look a certain way and act a certain way. And then you get into the fourth dimension, and all of a sudden you got all these astral entities and crazy things. And then you get in the fifth, and you get all these, loving, beautiful souls that are in their heavenly bodies. And then you get higher and higher, and the higher you go, you get different forms of angelic beings. So, it's kind of a subjective thing, I suppose.
So can we jump dimensions, or do we have to take it by stage? So, going from 3D to 4D to 5D, or can we jump them according to our vibration? Because 4D, like, don't we have some nefarious beings there as well?
You can't get to 5D without understanding 4D. You can try to pretend that you're there, but you're not. And I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth, is that a lot of people are like, oh, because I felt unconditional love, I'm in 5D vibration. Well, you are, in a way you are, because every day you're kind of aligning to your soul, and that's true. But for evolution, in terms of being able to get through that portal that I'm talking about in the astral realms, you've got to be able to get through certain stargates, and you can't get through those stargates by closing your eyes per se. However, as I say that, on one hand, on the other side of that, you can have out-of-body experiences to see those things, and when you do, it's like whoop, and you just pump right through that fourth D. You might see some things there and get right through it, and not have to sit there and tangle around with draconians. So, but if you're not seeing those things truthfully, you really aren't ascending, because a part of ascension is to be able to learn how to face some of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't see it, how can you combat it? If you don't understand what it is, how can you combat it? That's why I write about that stuff, so I can kind of put it out there for people and start penetrating their consciousness, so that they can understand there's some things there that you got to get through.
Yeah, because you have to wonder, as a soul, why do we incarnate into a place that has, child abuse and murders and the way some people treat other people? You'd have to wonder why. But then, like you said, viewing it from collectively or up here, you'd have to say that we're gaining some type of experience or skill to be able to become resilient to that. Or know that we don't.
There's definitely that at play, and there's also nefarious entities that can influence and do influence humans. We call that possession, right? They possess or they influence, and that's still a form of possession. They are getting you to act out in their will instead of your will or instead of divine will. And then there's also the fact that why did that happen is because humans themselves chose to live in their lower self instead of their higher self. And so that's part of the human's journey is, you know, do you serve your lower self or do you serve your higher self?
So why are we here on Earth? Is this a test to see whether we're going to choose the light or not?
It's 1,000,000% a test. We came here 1,000,000% to cut ourselves off from the light to see if we could find our way back. This is the densest reality. This is for the masters of this is the epic experience of getting away from the light and coming back. Now, there were souls prior to coming to Earth that didn't choose the light and they never got a body. Humans got a body, but they got to lose their remembrance. And so, you know, this was for masters and souls, many souls in the other side wanted to come here and were not chosen to and were not allowed to by Prime Creator because they weren't ready for this mission. So it is a test too.
So they do talk about the 144,000 that are here to help humanity. And I see you as one of those.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things that you actually focus on, particularly at the moment, is the twin flames. And how important is that for ascending Mama Gaia?
Well, twin flames are highly important for helping to help the Earth in her ascension process also. There's a lot of ways to look at that. So it's such a confusing topic for a lot of people, but essentially everybody's a twin flame if you want to put it that way. But not everybody's going to have that experience in this lifetime. So the key is to be in love with your soul. But if you're brought into the twin flame journey and you're actually initiated in it, which is a full-blown initiation, a very high voltage one, that is powerful because that's really the story of humanity in the beginning when the fallen angels took us away from ourselves and each other. We were split apart, and so all of the world's chaos and all of the world's combating and all of the world's fighting and everything else has to do with those two twin flames not being connected back to each other, and they've got to get connected back to each other so the soul is whole again. And as the soul is whole again, they're then bestowed upon them this magnificent third energy that comes in that is like a God energy that allows us to anchor in light onto the planet and to influence people. How many people are people like me influencing? Are we spreading light and helping others to be activated? So one of the things that was bestowed on me in my own evolution is my 12 strands were activated and my etheric wings were activated and all this wonderful stuff happened. I was then given gifts to be able to activate other people. So we're here as sort of like a domino effect to help activate the other souls too. And it's very important because how else are we going to get our way out of this? We are in it together. And so even the ones that are going to go in the old earth and fall away, eventually they'll come back. We'll still be working. I was shown we'll still be working on the other side to assist them through. So, you know, it's a never-ending journey here in a way, but the twin flames coming back together also has to do with the end of the human life cycles. So for me, I'm not coming back to Earth again. I'll be on the other side. I was shown that.
It's so good to have you here. It's so good to have you here.
You'll have to meet me up there. They're telling me that I'll be there for 1,000 years in 5D. So I'll spend some time there helping, and then I'll get to move into some of the higher dimensions too. So you know, it's just, it has to do with the end of samsara cycles and completing all of the life's lessons to activate all of those light codes in your body that have to be activated in order for your angelic self to come online. So I came online in my late 30s or mid 30s, and it's taken me another 15 years to really kind of work through a lot of other bugs and just to line up to the work I'm doing. And I'm wondering if I'm going to have enough time to finish what they're asking me to
Wow.
do.
Yeah.
But I'm working at it, and I was shown that this was it, and that is kind of the completion of the lesson on Earth, also the twin flame. So it's a big deal. But again, like, I don't want people that are watching this or listening to this to feel like, oh no, I got to find my twin flame, because if you start doing that, you're probably going to hold yourself away from them anyways. You've got to find your soul. That's what the twin flames are, is your soul. So, you got to find your soul. And that's really the key there.
Now, when you say that, is this another physical being, or you're talking about your own soul by going inside and finding that power, that male,
well, my twin
feminine?
flame is another physical being also. Yeah. But it's a very complex subject, and people, and it's actually these sorcerers are very good at what they did in terms of splitting souls and creating so much distorted energy in the mind matrix. But it is another human vessel as well. So
okay, yeah. Now, Earth is obviously another school for our souls to experience what we need to experience and learn. What about the other planets, though? Are they like little chakra systems? Do we experience all different different planets?
You've done a lot of research to get these questions out the way.
No, I've been born an old soul.
You are an old soul. You're like, oh, you're on the beat, girl. So of course, yes, they are other chakra systems. In fact, I was just talking about this in my Patreon community, that the Earth itself also has her chakra systems, and so do the cosmic the other realms, and so do the other galaxies. So there's many, the chakra system itself is kind of interwoven into everything that lives, everything that is life, and everything that exists. And actually you will also have the cosmos, or you have the constellations coded inside of your soul, so that you know how to navigate your way home.
Absolutely. So beautiful. We have the map in our DNA, and yet we don't know it.
Yeah, it's mapped into you, and most people don't know how to activate that and remember, but that's part of the journey. Is okay, like, how do I remember how to get there? And as you go inside of yourself, you can start to navigate your way through it.
Yeah, I think we actually have to do part 2, because we're coming to a close again. I don't believe this. It's gone so quickly. We'll obviously have to do part 2, a more advanced session as well. But if people want to learn about their soul, their Akashic records, their starseed, how can they actually find you? There's lots of things you do, twin flames, shadow work, finding people's soulmates.
Akashic records, starseed readings.
Starseed readings, yes, where people actually come from. Yeah, and what their purpose are.
Yeah, I do a lot also to heal trauma and to heal the chakras, but they can go to ellenredd.com, ELLENREDD.com, or they can find me on Psychic Ellen Redd on Facebook. That's my page that I think you found me on, right? I also have Twin Flame Initiates, but ellenredd.com has all my, if they go to ellenredd.com, it has all my links to TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So, and
that's how they can make an appointment with you as well.
Yeah, they'll message me off of the website, or they can message me on Facebook. Facebook is better if they're on Facebook, because and quicker that way, because I'm always on there. I have large audiences there, so I'm there all the time. But most of the
fantastic. All right, but you've been a wealth of knowledge. I can't even have the words to explain what it means for you to be on our show. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to stop recording. See?
Beautiful.